Walk into any car dealership in Britain right now and something doesn't add up. The forecourt is full. Brand new cars, barely a scratch on them, some still wearing the protective film on the door mirrors. The salesman who would normally make you feel like you were the one doing him a favor is now offering you free insurance, then a £2,000 deposit contribution, then a home wall box thrown in on top, then a servicing package. His eyes have that particular look, somewhere between professionally optimistic and quietly desperate, because behind the freshly hoovered showroom carpets and the glossy manufacturer posters, UK car dealerships are sitting on a crisis that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. The value of unsold stock on British forecourts has hit £27.3 billion, up 16% in a single year. That's not a misprint. The cars are piling up. Some of them, brand new, 0 miles, are sitting on dealer books for 4 months, 5 months, longer. And the reason why tells you more about the state of British motoring in 2025 than any government press release ever could. The ZEV mandate, the zero-emission vehicle mandate, requires manufacturers to meet a target of 28% electric vehicle sales in 2025, rising to 33% in 2026 and higher again after that. Miss the target, and the fine is £12,000 per car that falls short. So manufacturers have been pushing electric vehicles onto dealer books whether the underlying demand is there or not. And here is the part nobody in a boardroom wants to say out loud. Private buyers are not coming. In 2025, manufacturers threw £5.5 billion worth of discounts at EVs just to hit the mandate numbers. £5.5 billion. That works out at roughly £11,000 off per car sold on average, and still the market came in short of the target. Private car registrations in 2024 were the worst since the current twice-yearly plate change system came in back in 1999, the worst results in more than a quarter of a century, setting aside 2020 when the country was in lockdown and nobody was buying anything. Private buyers accounted for just 38% of all new car registrations, a record low. The average price of a new car now sits above £43,000, up from £31,000 just 5 years ago. Real wages haven't kept pace. Energy bills did. Mortgage rates did. So private buyers are staying home, and fleet orders are propping up numbers that would otherwise look catastrophic. The result is a landscape nobody planned for. Cars that should be flying off the forecourt are gathering dust instead. Manufacturers are applying enormous pressure to dealers to register vehicles and hit targets. Dealers are sitting on capital they can't free up. And a handful of specific models, some of them genuinely excellent, some of them genuinely puzzling, have become the unmistakable face of a transition that isn't happening on anyone's schedule. These are the cars UK dealers are struggling to move right now. The models that salespeople will negotiate hardest on. The ones sitting on forecourts for 3 months, 4 months, longer. And what any of this might actually mean if you're in the market. Hyundai Ioniq 6. Start here, because this is the one that stops you cold. The Hyundai Ioniq 6, the single slowest selling used car in Britain throughout all of 2024, according to Auto Trader's own data, took an average of 125 days to find a buyer. 125 days. The UK average for a used car in that same period was 39 days. The Ioniq 6 was sitting there for more than 3 times as long as a typical car, more than 4 months per unit on average, before someone finally said yes. And the thing that makes this genuinely strange is what the Ioniq 6 actually is. This is a car that won the World Car of the Year award in 2023, not a regional prize, the World Car of the Year. Judged by a panel of automotive journalists from across the globe who had driven everything else available and still pointed at this one. The Ioniq 6 has a drag coefficient of 0.21, which is extraordinary, lower than most sports cars, and a range of up to 328 miles on the WLTP figure in rear-wheel drive trim. The charging speed at its launch was class-leading. The interior is clean and almost meditative, with a flat floor thanks to the skateboard platform, ambient lighting, and a sense of calm that a lot of buyers respond to the moment they sit in one. So why won't Britain buy it? Shape. That is the entire story, and no amount of industry awards changes it. The Ioniq 6 is a fastback saloon in a country that has decided, categorically, that saloons are over. British buyers want an SUV. They want to sit up high. They want a commanding view over the school-run traffic on the A34. They want a boot you can fill with a buggy and 2 bags of compost, without performing gymnastics. The Ioniq 6 offers none of that. It offers something technically superior, lower drag, better range per kilowatt hour, more agile through a bend. But Britain has made up its mind, and aerodynamic efficiency is not on the shopping list. Hyundai dealers through 2024 and into 2025 have been pulling every lever available. Deposit contributions, servicing packages, PCP finance rates sharpened to the point of absurdity. Forum threads comparing notes on how much buyers managed to get knocked off the list price turned into a kind of sport, and the numbers being reported were remarkable for a car still well within its initial product cycle. Some buyers were getting deals that usually only appear at the end of a model's life, except the Ioniq 6 wasn't at the end of its life, it was barely out of its wrapping. If you have wanted an Ioniq 6 and the shape works for you, the window right now is not subtle. The deals are real, and the car underneath all the commercial noise is genuinely excellent. But factor in the residual value picture, because a car that takes 4 months to sell on a dealer forecourt is not holding its value strongly on the used market, and that affects the sums on a finance deal in ways worth checking carefully before you sign anything. Go in knowing what the 3-year-old version is selling for today, because that number tells you more than the headline monthly payment ever will. Lexus RX. Lexus built its reputation on the kind of reliability that makes German engineers quietly irritated. JD. Power surveys have consistently placed Toyota and Lexus at or near the top of their dependability rankings. The Lexus RX has been around in some form since 1998 and has accumulated a fiercely loyal owner base. People who have had one, loved it, bought another, loved that one too. The Honest John community online is full of RX owners treating their cars as long-term investments in mechanical peace of mind. None of that has helped the current generation RX on British forecourts. Auto Trader's 2024 data showed it averaging 114 days to sell, nearly 4 months. Third worst in the country, and for a car that retails from around £60,000 in the UK market, 4 months of forecourt time is not a small problem. The reasons sit at a specific intersection of price and perception. £60,000 in Britain lands you in proper German territory. BMW X5, Mercedes GLE, Range Rover Sport, a car that has enormous cultural weight in Britain regardless of what anyone thinks about the company's reliability record. Against those names, Lexus fights a brand recognition battle that it has never quite managed to win on this side of the world. In Japan and in America, Lexus carries real prestige. In Britain, it remains slightly below the radar for buyers spending serious money. The RX 500h is a plug-in hybrid, which at first sounds exactly right for a market being pressured towards electrification. But the pure electric range on that model sits at around 40 miles on the WLTP estimate. For a £60,000 car, buyers who want meaningful daily electric running are weighing that number against what else is available at the same price, and often finding the RX comes up short on that specific metric, even if it wins on virtually everything else. What the RX does brilliantly, the hushed cabin, the refinement, the build quality that suggests it will still feel solid at 150,000 miles, is exactly what a section of the British market values enormously. But that section is older, more conservative, and increasingly uncertain about spending 60 grand on a car while inflation has been doing what it has been doing. Dealers have been working hard to close the gap with contributions to running costs, extended service plans, and finance terms that are considerably more competitive than the list price suggests. If you are buying on the quality and longevity argument rather than the badge argument, the RX right now is worth a conversation. A Skoda Enyaq Coupe, the standard Skoda Enyaq, boxy, practical, sensible, thoroughly Skoda, has actually moved reasonably well. British buyers understand it. It fits the mental model of what a family car should look like and do, and the Skoda brand carries enough honest reputation to make it an easy yes for a lot of buyers who don't want drama. Then someone, somewhere, decided the Enyaq needed a coupe version, a sloping roofline, rackish rear, the kind of profile that looks like it costs more and goes faster. The Enyaq Coupe IV arrived as that car and promptly became one of the slowest sellers in the country, averaging 90 days on the used market in 2024 against that same 39-day national average. The maths of the Enyaq Coupe is the problem. The coupe body costs more than the standard Enyaq. For that extra money, you receive a sloping roofline that cuts rear headroom, not dramatically, but enough that taller passengers notice, and a boot that is measurably smaller than what the normal car offers. You are paying a premium for something that makes the car less practical. In Britain, that is a hard sell. Not impossible, but hard. There is also a mismatch of expectation and reality that has generated a certain amount of buyer confusion. The word coupe suggests sporting, low, dramatic. The Enyaq Coupe is none of those things. It is a crossover with a fashionable roofline, which is a reasonable thing to be, but it is not the car the name conjures for buyers who walk into the showroom expecting something different from what they find. The internet has had plenty to say about this gap between expectation and product. Deals on the Enyaq Coupe have included wallbox contributions, paint subsidies, extended warranties absorbed into the asking price, and finance packages adjusted meaningfully downward. If the sloping roofline genuinely appeals and you are not putting 7-footers in the back regularly, the opportunity to buy one at a genuine discount is very much present. BMW i5. The BMW i5 is the sort of car that makes complete sense on paper and a different kind of sense on a British forecourt in 2025. It replaced the 5 Series in the electric lineup with everything you would expect from Munich, up to 601 horsepower in the M60 xDrive configuration, a WLTP range of around 321 miles on the eDrive 40, a cabin loaded with every technology BMW knows how to fit, and that particular sense of being wrapped in German engineering that the 5 Series faithful have always paid for. The i5 found itself among the slowest-selling cars in the UK market in 2024, and it shares the root cause with many others on this list, price and body shape combining to shrink the audience to a fraction of what the product deserves. An i5 eDrive 40 starts north of £60,000. At that price, buyers are not just buying a car, they are buying a statement about what they value, who they are, and what their driveway says to the neighbours. And a large electric saloon, regardless of how accomplished it is technically, is making a very particular statement right now. The bigger context is structural. The family saloon, executive or otherwise, has been in retreat in Britain for years. SUVs now dominate every segment from super mini to premium. The buyer who 10 years ago bought a 5 Series is today, statistically, buying a BMW X5 or an X3. They want to sit higher. They want more flexibility. They want the car that fits the school run, the trip to IKEA, the weekend away, all in the same body without compromise. The i5 is an exceptional executive saloon in a world that has largely stopped wanting executive saloons. Residual value anxiety is also real in the premium EV space. Even with BMW's name on the bonnet, buyers who are thinking about what the car is worth in 3 years are finding the forecasts less reassuring than they were used to with the equivalent diesel 5 Series. Dealers know this, which is why service plans, insurance packages, and finance terms on the i5 have become substantially more negotiable than they would have been in 2022 or 2023. The car hasn't changed, the market around it has. And right now, that works in the buyer's favor in ways that BMW showrooms would never have tolerated 2 years ago. DS range. DS is the name most likely to produce a blank look if you mention it at a dinner party in Britain. And that blankness is the entire challenge the brand faces every single day. Spun out of Citroën in 2014 as a standalone premium marque, France's answer to what Lexus is to Toyota or what Genesis is to Hyundai, DS has spent more than a decade trying to establish itself in the British market without ever quite landing. DS sales in the UK hit a record low in 2024. The DS3, the DS4, the DS7, all of them sit on forecourts, waiting for buyers who, for the most part, walk straight past and into the Volkswagen, BMW or Mercedes showroom next door. This is not because the cars are bad. The DS4 in particular has received consistent praise for its interior quality, its sense of occasion, and a certain Gallic individuality that stands apart from the German mainstream. Motoring journalists who drive it tend to come away surprised. British buyers who look at it tend to come away uncertain. Premium buyers in Britain want an established story. They want decades of engineering credibility. They want a badge that communicates something recognized and respected. DS is asking buyers to trust a premium brand that doesn't have that history in the UK market, at price points that put it squarely in competition with brands that do. It is not a fight DS is currently winning. The irony is that the underlying products, particularly on the EV side of the range, represent genuinely competitive hardware. Platform sharing within the Stellantis group means the technology is solid, but technology alone doesn't move metal when the brand hasn't done the cultural work. Deals on DS models in 2025 have in some cases made the cars arguably better value than the equivalent Citroën they share architecture with, which tells you how hard dealers are working to shift them. If you go in knowing what you want and prepared to walk away, the DS network is one of the places right now where walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. They will call you back. Here is what sits underneath all of this, and it is worth saying plainly. Every single car on this list is objectively good at what it does. The BMW i5 is a technical landmark. The Lexus RX will outlast most of its competition by a considerable margin and still feel like a premium product at 150,000 miles. The Ioniq 6 won a World Car of the Year award because the people judging it evaluated it on its actual merits and still rated it the best car in the world that year. The DS4, in a parallel universe where the badge said something British buyers already trusted, would be in every other driveway on a new estate. The collapse hasn't come from quality failure. It has come from a market being steered at speed toward an electrified future that private buyers haven't chosen to rush into on anyone else's timetable. The government set a mandate, manufacturers built products around it, and pushed them onto dealer books. Private buyers, people spending their own money, not a fleet allowance, looked at £43,000 average prices and largely decided to wait, or to buy used, or to keep what they already have. What that leaves, for anyone actively looking to buy right now, is a window that doesn't appear very often. Manufacturers under mandate pressure, dealers under stock pressure, and some genuinely capable cars available at discounts that feel wrong given how new the products are. The residual value question is real and shouldn't be brushed aside. A car sitting unsold for 4 months is not one holding its value briskly. But if you're planning to own it for 5 years and the car itself suits your life, the sums on some of these deals start to look quite different. The bigger story here is that the transition to electric cars in Britain is not going smoothly, and forecourt reality is where that gap between ambition and demand becomes visible. Whether private buyers come around, whether the mandates flex, whether the incentives continue at this scale, none of that is settled. What is settled is what's on the forecourt right now and what dealers will do to move it. If any of these cars have been on your radar, or if you've managed to negotiate a deal on one recently and want to share what you got, drop it in the comments. And if someone you know is in the market for a new car right now, this might be exactly the video they need to see.